Okay, so if you were here for live class, stop. This is just kind of a catch-up video for people who weren't here to kind of get the overview of what we're doing today. So today we're looking at voting rights over time. The essential question we're trying to answer is how have voting rights changed since the Founding Fathers wrote the Constitution? So we're looking at a lot of historical stuff, and we need to know just enough to understand today. So the reason we're doing this isn't to learn history for the sake of history's sake. We're learning it to apply it to today. So if you look, the topics we're looking at are pretty simple. The skills we're doing are really big. So we're going to be doing a lot of things today that are going to be academically challenging. We're going to be analyzing, discussing, and evaluating some values. We're going to be explaining like the rationale or the thinking of our founding fathers. We'll cite some textual evidence from the Constitution and from these things called the Federalist Papers. So here's what we're doing. So basically, we're going to go over a little like how to catch up. This is the lesson today. We have a warm-up where we're going to tie in yesterday's work about the voting timeline to today. Next, we're going to listen to a podcast. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at some actual documents. So basically, the warm-up question is here. I added the voting timeline here if you want to check it out. What you'll do here is we're bringing it all together. This is almost like the check for understanding to make sure you got it yesterday. So what we want to do is everywhere you see type here, we want to write, define in your own words what that is. And if you want to go back to your work yesterday and maybe expand on it, that'd be a great idea. Next, we're going to get into a podcast. So if you look in the upper right part of this slide, there's a link to a podcast that should open up in a new window for you. Your job is going to be to listen to this podcast. And as you listen, we're going to complete these guided notes. So the podcast is like 14 minutes or so, 16 minutes. And I'm building in a little extra time because I'm assuming that you will have to pause to complete some of these questions. So I would suggest obviously either having it up in 2 tabs, or you could even have 2 windows where you can size a window on one side of your screen that plays the podcast, and then on the other side of the screen, you could have this slide open so you can type into it and kind of go back and forth. Another option is you could have 2 devices going at the same time. Your call. So that's going to be the next chunk of time, the voting rights. Then we're going to get into analyzing some documents. So here's some background information. I added a video for you down here, and then here's a YouTube video kind of explaining what it's all about. And then this is the actual work where we're going to go to the source. And what we're doing here is we're going to read the excerpt on the left, so like here. And then your job is to kind of translate it or summarize it in like plain language. Modern words is how I phrased it. So I have an example here for you. And then I have 2 left for you to do. And then the bottom, don't forget the bottom. That's like the most important part. You want to move this arrow or this circle, sorry, to put it over. If you think the Federalist Papers seem to argue that voting is more of a responsibility, a right, or a privilege. Moving on, same thing. There's a new thing, Intro to the Constitutional Amendments. So I have a little video here, a little visual for you here, another little video here explaining. Then what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to read some of these amendments that have to do with voting, and then we're going to put them in plain, simple language right here. And at the very bottom, that's kind of like your exit ticket right there. So I really hope this helps. I will be in the waiting room, or not in the waiting room. I'll be in the Zoom room if you need any help during this kind of self-paced, self-guided lesson.